Good evening, everyone, and welcome to St. Mark's. It's good to see everybody here tonight to celebrate together. It's going to be a great evening. It's a great privilege to welcome Holly Neer back. This is a great privilege for St. Mark's to be hosting her again. Thank you, Holly Neer, for being here tonight and for sharing not only your great artistry, your incredible musical skills that have inspired now generations of us, but you've taught us about justice, you've taught us about human rights, you've taught us about the dignity of every human being, and we give thanks to God that you are a gift to us and to our nation and our world. So, welcome, Holly Neer.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. How are you all doing? What a year, huh? What a year. We've been used and abused and attacked and insulted and horrified and shocked and inspired to respond with highest integrity.
Try to delude us with ads that blatantly lie.
away, and your job just got harder today because are you ready for your part? We're still here, choosing love over fear. When the lines are drawn, we're still here. We're still here, making it perfectly clear. When the lines are drawn, we're still here. When the lines are drawn, we're still here. Yes, we are. We are. I have to start the evening by just acknowledging what has recently gone on with the fire. I live in Sonoma County, and last November, the fires surrounded where I live, and we lucked out. It was a battle between firefighters and the wind, and in that particular moment, the firefighters won. But it's been going on for several years in Lakeport and Redwood Valley and now up here. And the devastation is, I said last night in Sebastopol, I was coming here to Sacramento, and I said, I'm so unprepared to know how to even speak of what has taken place. The communities of Paradise, Yankee Hill, Cherokee, Butte Creek, Helltown, Big Bend, Centerville, Cresta, the community of Chico rising up as the refugee center, and the big hearts that have come out of the woodwork to take care of one another. I really felt that during the fire last fall. Planes were being sent in from all different states and firefighters coming all the way from New Zealand. And it was an amazing feeling of global solidarity. And yet the whole time while it was going on, I couldn't help but think about Puerto Rico and Flint, Michigan, and New Orleans. So when I tried to connect those dots, the only thing I could see that made clear and sense of why those were so unserved is racism. And my audiences are usually filled with predominantly white people, and so I speak to us and say that what happens around racism isn't about them or they or those, it's us. It's us. How do we go deep and unlearn our racism and keep spreading it around? How do we understand that Mississippi is our problem as well as a problem in Mississippi? So, as Nina Simone said in Mississippi, goddamn. And she's hit it on the nose on that one. This is a song dedicated to Puerto Rico. My house is underwater. The circuits are all blown. I have no electricity. I cannot charge my phone. I've run out of medicine. I have no gas for the car. And then you tell me to apply for help on your website. Apply for help on your website. Are you kidding me? Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Or are you just losing your mind? Can't get clean water. can't get fresh food to eat, can't drive to school or the marketplace, destruction all over the street. You say go stay with a relative until we have it all fixed, and then you tell me to apply for help on your website. Apply for help on your website. Are you kidding me? Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Or are you just losing your mind? Should I sound the alarm? I can't sell the farm. None of you ever lived in the real world. Do you know how it feels when you reach for my hand and say you understand? Mr. President, are you kidding me? Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Or are you just losing your mind? My house is underwater. I want to introduce you to this stellar group. On my left is Marcel Davies Lashley. Behind me is the most extraordinary guitarist ever, Nina Gerber. It's funny, Nina's played with so many great musicians, and I listed them the other night, and I realized it sounded sort of like a star list, but the fact of the matter is, all of those people could play with whomever they want, and they all want to work with Nina, so I'm really glad she's here tonight. I've worked with Jan since 1981, when she came in and played the upright acoustic bass on Fire in the Rain, that recording. And she's worked with a lot of different groups, French jazz groups, a big band. She was with Wild Mango, one of the early women's Latin bands, and has become over years really a good touring friend and friend of mine, takes care of all the charts and communicates with new musicians who come into the group. So it's really, she's like my, I don't know what, she's like all the parts that I don't know how to do. Let's put it that way. Jan Martinelli. And on piano, a musician who's similar to Nina is on call all the times people want to. I mean, I have to fight to get dates to work with this extraordinary pianist. Last night she was with Laurie Anderson. She's worked with a lot of different gospel groups that have traveled around the world, as well as jazz singers, and is also a singer-songwriter in her own right, Tammy Hall. I wanted to say a little more about Marcel. Marcel was born in West Africa with parents who were from Liberia and Sierra Leone. And she just did the solo fairy part in A Midsummer Night's Dream at Delacorte Theater at Shakespeare in the Park in New York City, and also played She also played the part of the Queen of Sheba in a national and international tour of Robert Wilson's opera, The Temptation of St. Anthony. with an amazing libretto written by Dr. Bernice Johnson Regan, who was the founder of Sweet Honey in the Rock. So very happy you came from Brooklyn to hang out with us. So, Marcel Davis. So I was in Chile after the presidential election, and all my Chilean friends were coming up to me and going, what? And they were asking the question from a really very personal place, since they have endured long dictatorships in their country and have watched how quickly it happens. That's one of the things they were saying. It goes very fast once it happens, because Pinochet did a military coup in Chile, and I had musician friends who were traveling out in the world and got notes from their family, don't come home for a few weeks until it calms down, and they didn't get to go home for 11 years. So, and last night in the Santa Rosa concert, we had musicians who are now living in exile from Nicaragua, musicians who actually sang and supported the Sandinistas during the revolution, and now one of the leaders of that revolution has turned and has become very right-wing and conservative and violent. And so these dear musician friends are living in the US for their safety. So, and then of course what's going on at the border. I looked up what coup d'etat means in a dictionary. You know, the kind that has actual pages that you turn. And it said it's a sudden, decisive exercise in force in politics, a violent overthrow or alteration of an existing government by a small group, a quick and decisive seizure of governmental power by a strong military or political or corporate group, as in a corporate coup d'etat. Coup d'etat. French words are so loverly. Coup d'etat. Sounds like a pastry. Coup d'etat. A silky camisole. Coup d'etat. Bubbly, bubbly alcohol. Coup d'etat. I can hear the bankers counting. Un, deux, trois. And the terror, it is mounting. Coup d'etat. There's never been a bunch so bad. Call it outrageous or call it sad, but call it a coup d'etat. Coup d'etat. The country is on the brink. Coup d'etat. I think it's time to raise a stink. Coup d'etat. It's not a dance at Mardi Gras. Coup d'etat. Perhaps it's more like ménage à trois. Oh, no, 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 no. Coup d'etat. It does no good to play coquette. Coup d'etat. And no, it is not Pinochet. Coup d'etat. Right here in the good old USA. Coup d'etat. La la. Now I know that every empire must fall flat, but I thought that I would be dead way before that. And how long will it take for us to recover? This might be a good time to take a lover. Coup d'etat. Now someone had a rendezvous. Coup d'etat. The alternative facts may misconstrue. Coup d'etat. Does Kissinger tell them all what to do? Coup d'etat. I hope that someone's doing a judicial review. I know it's not a cheese souffle, but it was a downright terrible day. d'état. Please don't come to chez moi. Coup d'état. And we are way beyond je ne sais pas. Coup d'état. French words are so lovely, but don't confuse with democracy. It's a coup d'état, la la. Thank you. I love that little guitar. What is it called? Junior. Junior. It has a name. Junior. And then what's this one called? Senior? Elder? Elder. Oh. This is really charming for me to have all this instrumentation. Sometimes I sing a cappella, you know, so all these different sounds coming, it's quite lovely. This is a song by Mary Watkins and myself. You come at me with your anger. You come at me with your rage. The back of your hand, the center of your fist. I'm afraid to tell anyone this. I can't keep saying I fell down or ran into the kitchen door. My back is unhinged, my center is undone. When you say you're sorry, I just want to run. I'm a casualty in my own house. I'm afraid to go home at night. The worst of my bruises don't show, but my children are there and they need me to care, and I don't know where else we would go. You come at me with your grown-up. You come at me with your age. You yell and insult, and I'm just a kid. I don't seem to see that you know what you did. Who knows what your mood will be? Who knows who will get it next? You're weak and you're cruel, an infernal machine. I sink into the wall and try not to be seen. I'm a casualty in my own house. I'm afraid to go home at night. The worst of my bruises don't show, but my siblings are there and they need me to care, and I don't know where else we would go. Is there a shelter? Is there a friend? Is there a shelter? Is there a friend? No more secrets. Is there a friend? No more secrets. Is there a friend? Can't you hear Earth is weeping? Don't you know she is your home? You've trampled the grasslands and poisoned the wind. You bring me religion as if I have sinned. I'm a casualty in my own house. I love to walk on the earth at night when the worst of her bruises don't show. But my planet is here and she needs me to care, and I don't know where else I would go. Take us somewhere. Take us somewhere.
Trying times is what the world is talking about. You got confusion all over the land. Mothers against daughters, hey, fathers against sons. The whole thing is getting out of hand. Folks wouldn't have to suffer if there was more love for your brother, but these are trying times. You got the riots and the ghettos, and they're all around. A whole lot of things are wrong that are going down. I don't understand that. My point of view, I remember somebody said to others, as you would have them do unto you. But folks wouldn't have to suffer if there was more love. These are trying times. Hey. People always talking about man's inhumanity to man. But what you trying to do to make this a better land? Just pick up the paper, turn on your TV. You see a lot of demonstrations for equality. But folks wouldn't have to suffer
trying times, aren't they? Oh my gosh. But then when hasn't it been? That's what I keep trying to remind myself, is that these aren't the worst times. And yet we've gotten maybe to expect nirvana or something. I don't know. But, I mean, it's not yet. It's not the Inquisition. It's not the potato famine. It's not slavery or the Trail of Tears. It's awful, but it's not the worst. And we have this extraordinary opportunity, this window of opportunity. A momentum is going. I mean, when those women walk into Congress, I've got to tell you. Yeah, don't tell me that's the worst of times. Never been seen before. No, so I hope you can stay goosebumpy and juiced up for the next while, because I think we have no idea what's about to happen. No idea. But it won't happen unless there's just that constant, you know the story about the fly in the elephant's nose? It's just a tiny, tiny little thing, but drove the elephant crazy, just being there. So I think that we probably, if we remember how good we are, if we remember how many social change movements there's been over the last 40, 50, 60 years, and you were part of that in one way or another, no doubt. We actually know a lot. Look at those kids from Parkland. They know a lot, right? Look at Black Lives Matter. Those people know a lot. That's an exciting movement. I just got goosebumps myself. I got cancer a few years ago, breast cancer. I'm fine. But it was interesting. It wasn't what I had planned. Oh, I also meant to tell you, we're doing, that came out kind of odd. Yes, I think on January 7th, I will, I was meant to tell you that we're doing one long set rather than having an intermission in the middle. So in case you were wondering, isn't this a really long set? So I was lucky. I had early detection. Didn't have to do chemo, had radiation and surgery. The radiation really wore me out. Not as bad as chemo would have, I'm sure, but I got a big green chair, the kind that's got a lever on the side that kicks you back and your feet out, and boy, I stayed there for a very long time, and it's not my nature. So it gave me a lot of time to think, and out of some of that thinking came this song about our bodies. I mean, there's such delicate, intricate things. The fact that it works at all is astounding. So when something goes wrong, you go, wow, I'm not surprised, especially how oftentimes we treat our bodies. So this one's called Healing Journey. In my heart, I know the body is in truth a fragile dwelling, and I often treat it harshly, leaving havoc in my own home, havoc in my own home. Even when I treat it fairly, strong and startling storms abound that blow away my walls and windows and bring my dwelling down. Hurt deep, can't swim, take her to the shallow water. Heart broke, leaky boats, but look what love and trust has brought her. My soul will find another shelter and return to live again. I embrace this healing journey that I travel on till then. Hurt deep, can't swim. Take her to the shallow water. Heart broke, leaky boat. But look what love and life has taught her. Hurt deep, can't swim. Take me to the shallow water. Not broke, I'm afloat, and I'm dreaming on my granddaughter. I know not where this path will lead, and the end I have not found, but I know it's a healing journey this time around. Nina Gerber, Jan Martinelli, Tammy Hall. Are we doing I Ain't Afraid? Okay, is that what's it? Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I always love it when churches and temples and synagogues do actual humanitarian work and prayer, you know? When they do the actual work of it rather than the pretend work of it. And I thank all of you who are part of congregations that do that actual work. I ain't afraid of your Yahweh. I ain't afraid of your Allah. I ain't afraid of your Jesus. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. And I ain't afraid of your churches. I ain't afraid of your temples. I ain't afraid of your praying. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. Can you rise up to a higher power? Free up from fear, it will devour you. Watch out for the ego of the hour. The ones who say they know it are the ones who will impose it on you. I ain't afraid of your Yahweh. I ain't afraid of your Allah. I ain't afraid of your Jesus. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. Rise up, see the higher story. Free up from the gods of war and glory. Watch out for the threats of purgatory. The spirit of the wind will make a killing off a sinner, Satan. I ain't afraid of your Yahweh. I ain't afraid of your Allah. I ain't afraid of your Jesus. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. And I ain't afraid of your borders. I ain't afraid of your choices. I ain't afraid of your teachers. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. And I ain't afraid of your dances. I ain't afraid of your music. I ain't afraid of your children. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. This is a tune by Eric Schwartz. Heard this song at a festival, and I asked a friend who was with me to run ahead and find out whether it was okay to sing it. His version's a little more nasty than mine, but I do a family show, you know. As long as it's a family that's okay if I talk about things like racism and genocide and sexism and rape, and you know, if you come from that sort of family, then it's a family show. And I did, from the time we were children, we were taught to think about those things, that those were not things that were adult thoughts, those were human being thoughts. And I feel very grateful to that. My parents really worked to have us grow up to feel fascination rather than fear. And of course, there are things that come along that are age appropriate as you go, but I think children right from the get-go in those first 7 years when those little brains are developing need to know that they're not the only thing in the world, and also know how loved they are without competition. So hard. I have a granddaughter now, and I'm trying really hard not to say, "Oh, I love that painting you're doing," instead of saying, "I'm having such a good time watching you paint." It's a big difference. One is, "Oh, there's such a thing as a good and a bad painting. So now I've done a good one. What do I have to do another good one?" And the whole creativity process gets kind of blown. But to just share how much we enjoy the creativity and we enjoy their presence in the world. And to learn how to do intervention. Have you ever been in a grocery store and you've seen something happen and you go, "Why didn't I do anything? Why didn't I say anything?" Because we have to practice, just like cellists, just like athletes. Activists have to practice. We have to have a toolbox and be ready. So I was, well, there's two little stories about trying to do intervention in New York. One was that I saw a couple walk across the street, and one reached down and hit a 3-year-old for not walking fast enough. And I really thought, "Oh, come on, Holly, you know how to do this. You can do this." And I just got totally silent. But right across the street, there was a man with long dreadlocks and a bright-colored shirt, and he started dancing in the street and going, "Don't hit the baby, don't hit the baby." I said, "That's exactly what I meant to say, you know?" How hard was that? But he did it in such a way that was so loving and, you know, just not going up into their face or anything, just putting it out in the universe. So a few years later, I came across a man who was yelling at what appeared to be his two sons. One was like 15 and one was 17 maybe. No, a little bit younger actually, 14 maybe and 16. And their faces were just frozen with tears coming down. And he was yelling at them in such a way where the only thing that would warrant that kind of anger is if they had just poisoned his mother or grandmother. You know, it was like huge anger, rage. And I thought, "Oh, here we go. I don't know. Why me, God?" And this woman walked up in her fancy clothes, and she said, "What's going on over there?" And I said, "Well, you know, you can see it." And she says, "I hate to get involved in these things. I just hate getting involved." And she walked across the street. And I thought, well, I don't want to be her. So what are my other choices here? So I walked up to this man. He was still yelling. And I said, "Excuse me, sir," all ready to be, you know, punched or something. But he looked up in such a startled way, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he looked at me and he said, "Thank you." He'd been caught up in a rageaholic bubble and couldn't get out. And it just needed to be, there needed to be an intervention. And so I'm learning. I know that others will come along, and I have fallen on my face many times, but I encourage you all to practice, to have those words in your mind so you're ready when it happens, and know that you'll have to fail a few times to get there. Boy, that was completely not the introduction to this next song. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. They're sitting back here going, "What?" You know? Well, it's never the same every night, is it? Okay, we'll do this one, and I'll just assume you'll figure it out. Same apartment since 1943. They've got embroidered pictures on the wall with quotes that no one said, and an autographed picture of Jesus Christ above their double bed. Well, they're two old ladies that can't be denied. Their matching aprons hide a wilder side, and they will tell you about Barry over countless cups of tea. Well, maybe you would get the clue, but at first it eluded me that they're the founding mothers of the revolution, of mating with the blatant disregard for evolution. Lesbians extraordinaire, years before they cut their hair. 4 stories over all the pushing and the shoving. Hattie and Maddie got some brownies in the oven, sitting and knitting and loving their whole life through. Now Hattie and Maddie met through Gertrude Stein. One summer day at a déjeuner divine, Hattie said, well, I'm fond of la Joconde, and her strange and sexy style. And Maddie said, well, Leonardo's dead, but I know what made her smile. Now Hattie and Maddie bake for the neighborhood. They've been spreading lovin' any way they could, 'cause it's a special recipe that they got from Alice B. Well, I should have known when I heard the groans, but it took me years to see that they're the founding mothers of the revolution, of mating with the blatant disregard for evolution. Lesbians extraordinaire, years before they cut their hair. 4 stories over all the pushing and the shoving. Hattie and Maddie got some brownies in the oven, sitting and knitting and loving their whole life through. Well, that's what they do, sitting and knitting and loving their whole life. Bum, bum, ba bum, bum, bum. If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. Don't be sad when you see that he won it. If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. Doodly, 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 doo. Well, I do forget words. I actually have all my life, but it's getting more and more and more. I almost stopped singing about 20 years ago because I couldn't remember words anymore, and then I saw Mercedes Sosa working with a songbook in front of her, and I thought, oh, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Instrumentalists use charts. So, this is a wonderful lyric by Cheryl Wheeler. You know Cheryl Wheeler's work. And I recorded it with music, but I just want to say the lyric. Maybe it's the movies, or maybe it's the books. Maybe it's the bullets, or maybe it's the real crooks. Maybe it's the drugs, or maybe it's the parents. Maybe it's the colors that everybody's wearing. Maybe it's the president. Maybe it's the last one. Maybe the one before that, what he done. Maybe it's the high schools, or maybe it's the teachers. Maybe it's the tattooed children in the bleachers. Maybe it's the Bible, or maybe it's the lack. Maybe it's the music. Maybe it's the crack. Maybe it's the hairdos. Maybe it's the TV. Maybe it's the cigarettes. Maybe it's the family. Maybe it's the fast food, or maybe it's the news. Maybe it's divorce. Maybe it's abuse. Maybe it's the lawyers. Maybe it's the prisons. Maybe it's the senators, or maybe it's the system. Maybe it's the fathers, maybe it's the sons, maybe it's the sisters, or maybe it's the moms. Maybe it's the radio, maybe it's the road rage, maybe El Nino, or UV rays. Maybe it's the army, maybe it's the liquor, maybe it's the papers, maybe the militia, maybe it's the athletes, maybe it's the ads, maybe it's the sports fans, maybe it's a fad, maybe it's the magazine, maybe it's the internet, maybe it's the lottery, maybe it's the immigrants, maybe it's taxes, big business, maybe it's the KKK and the skinheads, maybe it's the communists, maybe it's the Catholics, maybe it's the hippies, maybe it's the addicts, maybe it's the art, maybe it's the sex, maybe it's the homeless, or maybe it's the banks, maybe it's the clear cut, maybe it's the ozone, maybe it's the chemicals, maybe it's the car phone, maybe it's the fertilizer, maybe it's a nose ring, maybe it's the end, but I know one thing: if it were up to me, I'd take away the guns.
I grew up in a Pentecostal church in Brooklyn, and every child, as soon as they can stand up, gets a small tambourine as a gift. So you start doing that really early, and then you learn with a little bit of a, then you learn how to do this little thing. And then with my kids, which I have 3, you start having them mimic you. So you say, do this. And all the kids can do it. So I get to do it all over the world, but you come to my church, you can see a 5-year-old.
And I am going to attend one day.
Yes.
I want to see this phenomenal place from which you come. I wanted to tell you a couple things. One is that a film was made about my life and work called Singing for Our Lives. And it was made, it was made by the same filmmaker who did Wasn't That a Time about the Weavers. And he's also made films about Pete Seeger and Arlo Guthrie and Woody Guthrie and Belafonte and Peter, Paul, and Mary. He's sort of been the East Coast folk filmmaker. And one time, he would always interview me for those films, but at one point I said to him, "Are you ever going to come west?" And he did. And he's made a beautiful film. I'm very honored. And it's going to air on March 1st on PBS American Masters. So you can watch that. And the other bit is we're doing, I've never done this before, we're doing a Facebook live stream concert tomorrow night. And it starts at 8 o'clock. It's just one of those things where you have to watch it in real time. You can't copy it. And we'll be this group, and I will be at the Freight and Salvage tomorrow night. And the live stream will be at 8 o'clock. So you can do that. The night after that, on Sunday, we're doing 2 shows at Santa Cruz, 6 and 8. If you know anybody in Santa Cruz, they haven't quite sold that one out yet. So if you have friends and you want to tell them you like the show. And the same at the Freight. I think there's still lots of tickets at the Freight. So, but that'll be fun. See if I can not make quite so many lyric mistakes. But okay, let's do Front Porch. Yeah. If I had a front porch sitting in a rocking chair, and I'd be rocking if I had a sweetheart. You'd be sitting there with me, sitting in a rocking chair, and we'd be rocking. And you would look at me like I'm a thing of wonder, and I'd look back and smile and say, here comes a bit of a storm, let's watch the lightning and the thunder. If I had a front porch, I'd be sitting on it, sitting in a rocking chair, and I'd be rocking. Oh, the fireflies lighting up the sky, humidity spitting down my face. Soon all the neighbors can't resist, let's go hang out at Holly's place. I'd be sipping on it, apple and a sprig of mint, and I'd be rocking if I had a big cat. She'd be sitting there with me, sitting in a rocking chair, and she'd be rocking. And we could hear the cheers from the Little League Park as some gal rounds the base. Game is over, team can't resist, let's go hang out at Holly's place. If I had a baritone uke, I'd be strumming on it, sitting in a rocking chair, and I'd be strumming. If I had a front porch, I'd be sitting on it, sitting in a rocking chair, and I'd be rocking, 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 rocking. There's a wonderful singer-songwriter, poet named Farron from Canada. We're going to do a song by Farron. There's godlike and warlike and strong like only some show. There's sad like and mad like and had like we know. But by my life be I spirit, and by
but no matter how slow I walk, there are traces, empty spaces
By my life be I spirit, and by my heart be I open, and by my eyes be I open, and by my hands be I whole.
You young ones, you're the next ones, and I hope you choose it well. Though you try hard, you may fall prey to the jaded jewel, and by our lives
Be you spirit, and by your hearts, and by your hearts be you women, and by your eyes, and by your eyes be you open, and by your hands, and by your hands be you whole. Listen, there are waters hidden from us. In the maze we find them still. I'll take you to them, you take your young ones, and may they take their own in turn, and by our lives be we spirit, and by our hearts, and by our hearts be I women, and by my eyes, and by my eyes be we open, and by my hands, and by our hands be we whole. Karen. We're going to end in a suite of 3 songs. So before we enter into that, I want to thank St. Mark's United Methodist Church for holding this season where they have 4 or 5 people come to either talk or sing about the issues at hand. And it's the 2nd time I've participated, and I really appreciate being invited again. Thank you, Michael, who helped us with lights, and Jeff from Skip Sound Productions, who worked on that. Pastor Alan Jones, thank you so much for your hospitality. Chris Harris, who prepared our beautiful meals, and all the volunteers who participate to make something like this take place. And Lily. We got here and there'd been a miscommunication and a bass amp hadn't arrived, so she said, I'll jump in my car and go get one. So Lily and Jeanine, thank you very much. These next 3 songs are really a spiritual trilogy about those of us who've committed our lives to peace and justice. And sometimes people will say, how do you keep going, or doesn't it feel like a sacrifice? And you know, the fact is, I get tired. Tired's okay, everybody gets tired. But it doesn't feel like having given something up. And the reason being is that I really don't like hanging out with fascists. And so it would be an odd life to make that choice. I really like being around people who ask the hard questions and do the hard work. And so it's been a pleasure to be part of these social change movements now for 50 years. And I'm going to be 70 in June, and so it's been, I can't imagine, even though I started out in film and television, and some of you will see that in the documentary, but I did The Partridge Family and Room 222 and All in the Family, and I did a few good films. Most of them were grade B films. I was in Slaughterhouse-Five, which I thought was an excellent anti-war film. But the anti-war movement, the desire to end that war, which was so vicious, caught my creative attention. And I left that work in Hollywood and did so. I actually, wow, it's part of the spiritual trilogy. Anyway, before I left, I did get to do hair on Broadway, so I had that one dream. I checked Broadway, check, you know, so. Anyway, we're going to start with a beautiful solo piece that Tammy is going to play, and then we'll ask you to sing I Am Willing with us, and then we'll go into Singing for Our Lives and bid you good night. So thank you again, Tammy. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There is a hurting in my family, and there is sorrow in my town. There is a panic all across the nation, and there is a wailing the whole world round. But I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. May the children, may they see more clearly, and may the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though they burn our eyes. I am open and I am willing, and I am willing, for to be hopeless, to be hopeless would seem so strange, so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change, to the light of change. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion, and give me a desert to hold my fear. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder, and give me an ocean to hold my tears. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Give me that chord again. Thank you. We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. I wrote that after Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone were assassinated in San Francisco 40 years ago. And that first verse was intentional, loving and angry, because I feel like they are not mutually exclusive. that we must be angry when we see horrific things like children being taken away from their parents for unknown lengths of time down at the border, for example, which also happened to the indigenous people, where their children were taken away from them and sent to Indian schools where they would be taught to be white people. When we see this and hear about it, it is right that we be angry. But it's totally possible to be angry and loving at the same time and not let the hate completely break our spirits. And then the second verse was, we are gay and lesbian people. And that night it was the first time many people had said those words out loud. And then the song was picked up by allies and they changed it to we are gay and straight together. And then we learned a lot more about gender and sexuality. And now I can't fit all the words into the meter of the song. But we are all in this together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are all in this together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people. We are a gentle, loving people. And we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people. And we are singing, singing for our lives. Please sing me away. Oh, we are all in this together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are all in this together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle, loving people. We are gentle, loving people. And we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle, loving people. And we are singing, singing for our lives. Thank you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Hallelujah.